Senator Saslaw, Senator Newman, Senator Edwards,
Here.
Senator Lewis,
Here.
Senator Dunavant,
Here.
Senator Suderline, Senator Pillion,
Here.
Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a few bills to deal with this year. I think it's 7 or 8 bills that we have here. We'll start out with Delegate Byron. So you got rid of me last night, and so you got up early this morning. So
Thank you, Senator Barker. I have Senate Bill 1359, and there's a substitute that we're addressing and putting everything under federal HIPAA, making sure that was all in order. I had a couple folks that came to me with amendments, and we included those. And I understand from your worthy Sarah Stanton that we are now in compliance. Is that correct? Okay, so this bill is a small step in mental health care. You know, many of us are experiencing a loved one or even a friend maybe that has mental health issues, and this just clarifies when you go for those services. Recently, I mean, I've had to experience someone in my family that, as a senior member, that has needed a lot of mental health services, and I know the challenges that you have not only in the physician's office, but getting them to get treatment and to go back for continued treatment. Young ones are even more so because young ones don't have any idea sometimes what they're experiencing, and they also aren't used to making appointments for themselves and going out and doing things that they're used to, or that you get used to doing as an adult, or you have your wife do it and you're used to your wife doing it. But so as a young person, I have a loved one that was trying to get appointment for mental health services. It's hard to find some physicians. We know we have a shortage. And yet we passed a birthday and weren't able to have that person, the parent, make the appointment anymore. And the young person had to be in charge of not only navigating that system, but dealing with the physician as a young 18-year-old adult. So my understanding, what I asked for and what this bill does is simply allow, with permission, the parent to be able to make an appointment, to also to give authorization for that person to go to services with them. And I think that basically covers this first step. And, you know, maybe in the future I'll find that there's some other things we can do to help in that regard.
all right, are there questions of the patron? Is basically the substance of the substitute on 19, 20, and 21, is that it's just at the end of the bill? So
Yes. Yes, it's a long bill, but
yeah. But with everything I think up before the bottom of page 19 is
yeah, it kind
existing
of starts at 514.
Yeah.
And
Well, it starts at 500, I think. There's a section there, section L.
yeah, that's
And
releasing
that's
of records,
releasing the records, right.
which I'm sure is beneficial, but it wasn't exactly everything. I was more concerned about making sure someone could accompany someone and help with those services.
All right. Are there any questions? All right. Yes, Senator Hashmi.
Do I need to speak?
Yes, please do, so people can hear you. So.
So we're talking about adult children, is that correct? Individuals who are 18 and older?
My issue was with an 18-year-old, but I would ask Legislative Services to, she's confirming, yes, shaking her head.
And if the adult, 18 years or older, does not want a spouse, a parent, or an adult sibling to have access to their medical care, to making appointments, do they have the ability to deny that access?
And they do now. It just clarifies when you go. There's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding of, because of HIPAA and what the state law allows, that what the doctor's offices are following under. But I see Legislative Services was going to address this. I'll let them.
So just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, yes, as Delegate Byron is saying,
under the current law, a person 18 years of age or older is an adult and obviously has the ability to consent to medical care and the release of their healthcare records. What this bill would do is change the law to say if that 18-year-old person has executed an authorization, as they're allowed to under HIPAA, then the healthcare provider can release their medical records described in that authorization to the specific named person. They can choose not to execute an authorization, in which case none of their information would be released, and they can revoke that authorization at any time, and this bill specifies how that would work. The other part of this bill that is different from current law is the bill clarifies the point that a spouse, a parent, a family member can contact a healthcare provider and make an appointment for you without that authorization having been completed. So even without an authorization, my spouse could contact a provider and make an appointment for me. That provider is not able to disclose any protected health information about my condition, my treatment, anything like that. While that person is making the appointment, they can only disclose that information during that phone call if I have executed that authorization. So the only thing that this would allow them to do is actually make the appointment on my behalf.
All right, yes, Senator Newman.
That's kind of the opposite question, Kathy. I mean, those that have parents that are on the other side of this, and because of dementia and other items, this will kick in for those of us who have got parents that are getting in that side as well. There's nothing in it that's restricted or age restricted, I guess you could say.
No, and I don't think they're, as far as the appointments or as far as health records?
Both, I guess. So.
Well, health records, I think that's available now under HIPAA if you just release that. So, but this survey, and you can make an appointment for these folks, but they don't have to go. So it's really just helping navigate, especially if someone is really depressed or dealing with some anxiety or other issues. They just sometimes struggle even making that appointment and getting the services they need. So
helps on both sides.
yes, absolutely.
All right. If there's no other questions, does anyone wish to testify on this bill? All right, if there's no testimony, the bill is before us.
We adopt a substitute.
I don't think we did, actually. Yeah. All right. We got a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right. Now you.
Recommend report to the substitute as amended.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah. Everybody wake up. So, okay, we have the bill before us now. It's been a motion and a second to recommend reporting to the full committee. We'll call the roll, please. So.
Senator Saslaw, Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Dunavant, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 7, noes 0, abstentions 1.
All right. Thank you. Certainly. All right. Next up is Delegate Adams. So, okay, and then I'll do you next. So, yeah. Aye.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Certainly.
HB 1245 repeals the sunset clause that has allowed nurse practitioners with 2 or more years of postgraduate experience to practice without a collaborative practice agreement. Nurse practitioners who stepped up to safely care for patients during the pandemic over the last 2 years risk losing their patient relationships because of this repeal. I have provided each of you with direct links to the many studies that demonstrate both the safe practice and positive impacts as a result of reducing onerous physician oversight, including 2 reports prepared for members of the General Assembly by the Department of Health Professions. It has been frustrating to continually have to work to counter false narratives provided by opposition groups. Nurse practitioners are well prepared at graduation and are nationally board certified in their area of practice. They practice only within their limited scope. Transition to practice is not the same as a residency program. Residency programs are designed for progressive learning. Transition to practice is employed time where the nurse practitioner practices at the behest of the employer. In many places, this means being assigned to doing all of the hospital discharges for a particular service, or being allowed to see only certain types of patients in a clinic. These experiences stop learning experiences very quickly. Only about 25% of Virginia's nurse practitioners choose to apply for autonomous practice. Many who do still work in collaborative physician-owned practices, but others need this independence in order to work in their communities who are often underserved. Autonomous practice is not automatically conveyed for nurse practitioners like it is physicians. Even at 5 years, nurse practitioners have to apply for autonomous practice. This need for an application process has captured data that demonstrates there is not a race for autonomous practice, but rather a need for autonomous practice. Over the last 2 years, Virginia has not had the benefit of this data, but has had the benefit of nurses once again stepping up to meet the needs of the patient. The IOM, the Institute of Medicine, now called the National Academy of Medicine, has been calling for full practice since 2010. The Academy of Medicine is a national and international authority that provides policy recommendations for the advancement of science and health equity to create a healthier future for all people. More than 25 states with autonomous practice, in the more than 25 states with autonomous practice, only 2 have transition periods longer than 2 years. At 5 years, Virginia is a significant outlier. I hope you will show that you value the work, dedication, and expertise of advanced practice registered nurses who are nurse practitioners by removing the sunset clause due to expire July 1 of this year. I thank you, and I know there are members to testify on each side. I also encourage you to ask questions about the state report if you have them from the Commissioner of the Department of Health Professions. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions of the patron? All right, then we will go to public testimony. We got a lot of bills to get done this morning, so come on up, and we'll give you up to 2 minutes total each side. So.
Hello, my name is Sharon Simon. I am a nurse practitioner. I am an Army veteran. I've been a nurse for 25 years and an NP for 6 years. I am currently autonomously licensed, but if this legislation does not pass, I will lose that license. I worked 2.5 years full-time and began teaching while completing my doctorate. I am the director of the Family Nurse Practitioner Program at Shenandoah University. I work in interventional pain management, providing patients alternatives to opiate management. With my next available appointment, booking 10 weeks out. Access to care is a problem in the entire state. I see patients in both Northern Virginia and in multiple rural areas in the state. Without this legislation, I will lose my autonomous license. I will no longer be able to volunteer in free clinics where I care for adult and pediatric patients. And a practice agreement would cost me $5,000. I will not be able to take 24 students to the rural area medical event, the RAM, in Luray, Virginia this summer.
You've used 1 minute, and
Yes.
we need to, so you need to wrap it up.
Sure,
really quickly,
thank you.
so.
I'm working on a HRSA grant to bring federal funding that would allow NPs to provide mobile health services. The opposition will say NPs haven't opened practices or moved during this temporary autonomous period. Of course we haven't. We didn't want to disappoint patients when those practices closed in July. We're losing NPs to our neighboring regions with autonomous practices. We need to do better permanently for the residents of Virginia. I want to meet this need, but I am waiting for you to determine if I can open a practice or if I need to go to DC where my autonomous license would be approved. Thank you, Chairman.
Certainly. Come forward. You got about 20 seconds left.
Real quick.
So try
Good
to-
morning. I'm Natalie Snyder with AARP Virginia, and we support the repeal of the sunset provision. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Dr. Ashley Apple, Commissioner on Government Relations for the VNA. In October, the Virginia Department of Health Professions, which oversees the Board of Nursing and the Board of Medicine, recommended that all APRNs be granted independent practice authority. That means no collaborative practice agreements at all, and certainly not 5 years, which is what will happen if you fail to move this bill along. Page 17, I have it right here if you would like to read it, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lindsay Zaya. I'm here as an expert testimony with the Virginia Institute for Public Policy. And I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of things we disagree with the Affordable Care Act, but it did want to increase scope of practice, and that this is doing the same thing, and we agree that that is necessary at this time for increased access. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, those opposed? Oh. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Ranson. I'm a first-year medical student at the VCU School of Medicine. My medical school classmates and I are concerned that HB 1245 is going to be legislation that creates an imbalance between clinicians. Medical school has already taught me there's a vast world of medicine that we need to learn. And I went to medical school because I want to help people. I grew up in rural Matthews County, Virginia, and I saw the impact of low access to medical care. But our rural patients deserve the same quality of health care as those in more affluent areas. We deserve clinicians that have seen who have seen the most expansive scope of cases during their supervised training that best prepares them for this independent practice. And this proposed reduction in years of experience creates a significant discrepancy in clinical education and training between physicians and nurse practitioners. Physicians are required to complete a 4-year bachelor's degree, 4 years of in-person medical education to receive their MD or DO degree, and then complete at least 3 years of residency, which includes 12,000 to 16,000 hours of supervised clinical experience and patient contact. In contrast, nurse practitioners must first be an RN and then enter a graduate-level nursing program that lasts between 2 and 4 years. These programs can be completed online, and curriculums vary from state to state. These NPs receive anywhere from 500 to 750 hours of patient care time during their training, which is only 1/16 of the time that physicians must
Could you try to
Yes.
wrap it up, because we got a couple more people wanting to speak?
Yes, sir. So HB 1245 begs this question: what requirements does Virginia want to ask of future clinicians before they can practice medicine on their own? This bill is going to make those requirements drastically different between physicians and nurse practitioners. So I ask that you vote no. Thank you for your time.
All right. Next.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Richard Such, a radiologist from Richmond and a former president of the Medical Society of Virginia. I'm here today to express the physician community's concerns about HB 1245. Before entering radiology, I practiced primary care for 3 years in Accomack County on the Eastern Shore. When I arrived, there were only 6 practicing physicians in the county, and while I was there, 1 died and another retired. So I know firsthand about what our communities need and how important the balance between experience and access can be. This bill was also considered last year. Before making the change permanent, the General Assembly decided to wait for a DHP study, which has already been mentioned, on the 5-year standard. That report failed to make a recommendation for lowering the years of experience. The Board of Medicine voted to maintain the requirement for 5 years of clinical experience, while the Board of Nursing voted to lower the level of training. The data in the report show that NP autonomous practice has not solved Virginia's access issues. As you've already heard, not all nurse practitioners seek independent practice. Only 1,259, about 9% of all licensed nurse practitioners, have pursued independent practice in the past 4 years. According to the DHP data, only 2% of those autonomous nurse practitioners have broken out to start their own practice. Most autonomous nurse practitioners have remained in Northern Virginia, Richmond and Hampton Roads, and work in the hospital setting. Matthews, Franklin, Botetourt, Craig, Dinwiddie, and Powhatan are just a few of the 31 localities in the Commonwealth that have no autonomously practicing nurse practitioners. This bill will permanently decrease...
Can you try to wrap it up?
Okay.
We got one
with,
more.
With that in mind, I ask you to oppose HB 1245.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Joanne Sequeira, an ER physician representing the Virginia College of Emergency Physicians. We are here today to ask you to keep the training minimum at 5 years. Emergency physicians see it all. I'm resuscitating an altered patient who's having a head bleed or a GI bleed, then sedating a child with a broken arm while setting it back into place, then supervising a team during a cardiac arrest. I once delivered a baby in an elevator. The variety of what we see on a daily basis is staggering. We manage the critical emergencies of every single body system. It truly took me 10,000 hours of medical residency training in an academic center, seeing this variety of medical and surgical emergencies, to be proficient. The 5 years of a 40-hour week equates to about 10,000, 12,000 hours of training, which is a similar amount of training a doctor receives in residency. When there are so many life-saving procedures, medications, and management pathways to know in emergency medicine, it's critical that nurse practitioners have those 5 years of hands-on training. 2 is just not enough in the emergency department. You don't know what you don't know, and at the end of the day, when someone is unprepared and practicing independently, the patient is the one at risk. 5 years or 10,000 hours of hands-on specialty training should remain the requirement to be able to practice independently.
All right, thank you.
you.
All right. Delegate.
I'm a nurse practitioner, and I feel like the physicians were given a little bit more time to speak. Is there any way that I can speak? I didn't stand up because I heard 2 minutes, but that was well over 2 minutes.
Okay, just come briefly, yeah.
Hi, my name is Rose. I'm the Public Relations Officer for the Virginia Council of Nurse Practitioners. I have practiced in the state of Virginia for 6 years. Nurse practitioners in 25 states in this nation are able to graduate from school and go out and practice independently the day after they graduate without any physician supervision. So are we trusting the schools in the state of Virginia to prepare our nurse practitioners? Are we trusting the Board of Medicine to certify them, as well as the operating body, the ANCC, the ARP? Because right now, we're about to decrease accessibility of care to patients that need it. There are mothers that are pregnant that need to see a nurse practitioner, and that right now, primary care physicians are maxed. There are no appointments available. We removed this bill. We have nurse practitioners that are now practicing, seeing patients, and are able to provide an accessibility of care in the middle of a pandemic that is not getting any better. That can get worse. So why are we not trusting the schools that are preparing these nurses, that are getting them set up, that are putting them in the community, and why are we not trusting their competency just because the physicians have been in school more? It is great that they have been in school for 8 years. But a nurse practitioner goes to RN school. She takes a certification there. She goes to NP school. She takes a certification there. She practices clinical hours. She meets didactic hours. Why are we questioning that? They are prepared. They're excellent. They do a good job, and they're providing accessibility to care, quality care at a great cost to the patient.
All right, thank you.
Get one of the doctors. I want to back up here. I want to ask a question.
Okay, Senator Saslaw would like to ask a question of one of the physicians who testified.
Or Scott.
Or
I mean, you look on, we were all given this, I guess. You look on this and you see that 30 states either have 0 hours required, or certainly less than 9,000 hours, or the longest one is 3 years. I'm assuming then the other 19 states have some type of requirement that's ours or greater. I mean, how big of a problem has that been in these 30 states? That,
the 30 states that
allow it and
have autonomous practice with less than 5 years?
Yeah.
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know that there's been a problem, but we just don't think there should be a double standard for people that go out and practice medicine independently. That there should be some parity between the level of training of anyone who's going to practice independently. As was said, you don't know what you don't know. And we respect nurse practitioners. I respect Dawn. She's a wonderful nurse practitioner. She has many years of training. But when people are going to, it was just said that they should just come straight out and go into practice with only 500 or 700 hours of clinical supervision. That is just not enough. They need to have more clinical supervision than that. Maybe not the total amount that physicians have, but more than would be under this.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I got a question too. All I hear, especially in the rural areas, we need more nurses all the time. Mm-hmm. And we have not enough doctors. If you want to have more doctors, that's fine. But we don't have enough And it's been working very well in Virginia, having those nurse practitioners. I don't understand why there's any opposition to this.
Well, actually, the data shows that most independent nurse practitioners are not going to those underserved areas. They're staying in the urban areas, and many of them are working for hospital systems. So that really, I think, is a spurious argument for why we should relax the standard, because it's not addressing the shortages.
Yeah.
I mean, the data is in the report, but it's being represented differently than the way that we've read it, and the commissioner's here. Maybe he could answer your question.
Yeah, Commissioner, can you say a word?
Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, David Brown, Director of the Department of Health Professions.
Right. Senator Edwards.
Yeah, your report, you all looked into it, didn't you?
Yes.
What'd y'all conclude?
There was a report done looking at data that was collected regarding the nurse practitioners who practiced with the autonomously since the 5 years was passed. And while on the one hand, the raw numbers were that most of the practitioners were practicing in urban areas, if you looked at the data by population per 100,000, it did show that autonomous nurse practitioners were filling some need in the rural areas.
That's all I hear is that we need more nurse practitioners in the rural areas especially.
Senator Fillion.
Will any nurse practitioner currently working autonomously lose their ability to do so if this legislation does not pass?
So we were asked that question. Someone emailed us and asked that question. The consensus among my staff is that our history has always been to not take away a privilege from a practitioner once it had been granted.
So when they would be grandfathered.
That is what we believe. Now, some of those decisions do require us touching base with the Attorney General's office, but we do have other situations where a person's been granted a license or a privilege. Then the qualifications rise, through legislation, and we don't take that privilege away.
And how many, do you have a number on how many have actually been granted this license so far?
I don't have that in my head, I'm afraid.
Senator Newman.
If it was the will of the General Assembly to say that if you're grandfathered in, we could put in an enactment clause or something that could be very clear to you about what our intent is on that topic. Is that correct?
I think if certainly the legislature could speak on that to provide complete clarity. But I do believe, it's my impression from the team that we think it's unlikely that that privilege would be taken away.
But just to be clear, if we put it into legislation, it would.
You're asking a non-lawyer a legal question, but it sounds like, but we pretty much do what the legislature tells us to do.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I called the department, and what I understood was because of the way that the emergency clause was implemented, so previously we had to apply, but this 2 years sort of just happened, and there's not a good record of who has autonomous practice at 2 years and who doesn't. So I don't know how you quantify grandfathering something for which we have no record. Is that correct understanding?
I'm not fully prepared to speak to that. I'm not part of the Board of Nursing, so.
As in some conversations with you on other topics, as I understand it, anybody that has a license, if we don't have the data, they already have the license. They have the authority. And so they would reapply eventually, but you're not stripping anybody from their license because, again, that's in their favor that there's no data of how long they've been there.
Well, I think we certainly have people have applied for that privilege. I think who we don't capture are people who are practicing pursuant to the executive order.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
All right. All right, any other questions of Dr. Brown?
Mr. Chair.
All right, Senator Hashmi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner. And I read through the report that was issued, and it just seemed largely inconclusive on many of the critical areas that we want to make decisions. And the physicians are interpreting the data one way, and the report one way, and our nurse practitioners have offered recommendations based off the same report in another light. So what is your recommendation coming from the report that was issued?
Well, I should back up and say there were two reports that were issued that involved advanced practice nursing. One was the report on studying data relating to the experience with people, nurse practitioners who've been practicing for 5 years. The second one was a report just in general on advanced practice nursing. The Board of Medicine and the Board of Nursing had different recommendations. They were asked, the requirement was that the Board of Nursing and the Board of Medicine make recommendations. Well, they had different recommendations. So the Board of Medicine said leave it at 5 years. The Board of Nursing said 2 years or even no requirement would be good with them. So it was inconclusive. And I think to go back to the data question, there was, it was a limited amount of time. And so I think statistical significance on a fairly small sample set is not something, you can draw definitive conclusions. But looking at the data on where nurse practitioners were, most of them were in Northern Virginia, Richmond, in urban areas. But if you looked at it per 100,000, there was evidence that they were helping address workforce issues in the rural areas.
All right.
One more question.
Yes.
And what was the time frame that you analyzed?
We analyzed it from the time we first started issuing the autonomous practice based on the original legislation that did the 5 years. And if you're asking me to tell you exactly when that was, I can't do it. 2018. And we did it until I think sometime in the late spring of last year. So in other words, we had to have a cutoff date so we could then analyze the data and issue the report in the fall.
All right. If there are no further questions or comments, the bill is before us. Yes.
I do have another question.
Okay. No. Yeah. Senator Pelican.
I certainly appreciate you advocating for your industry, your profession. However, this came to my attention when I read HB 243. Can you explain that? And why that bill was submitted?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, it can. And really, I don't feel like I'm advocating for my profession as so much as patients. I've been a nurse since '86. I've been a nurse practitioner since '99. I have the lived experience of all the different ways to be a nurse practitioner. And so, I also have a lot of education in different areas. I felt like I feel like sometimes we're contrasting apples to cran apples, right? It's not apples to oranges, but the practice of being a nurse practitioner and the practice of being a physician have many similar things and also many different things. I put that bill in because when you look at state law, and this bill was to draw a contrast, right?
Not to, but you may want to explain what that bill is to the rest of the committee as well.
So state law says that in order to be a physician in Virginia, whether you graduate from a United States program or a foreign program, you need to graduate from a medical school and then have 1 year of residency. And then you can have all of the privileges of a physician. That's what Virginia law says. Also within Virginia law, there's no attachment of malpractice to licensure. Now, nurse practitioner, the law around nurse practitioner, they don't have the scope of practice of a physician, never will, don't want that. They have a very limited scope in whatever they're certified in. Sometimes it's incredibly narrow, sometimes it's a little broader but shallower, right? If you're a family nurse practitioner, you might do a clinic for primary care, but you're not doing any of the intense things that internal medicine does. So in order to do that, currently in state law, under code, without the provisions of this pandemic, you have to have an education, which most of us have a bachelor's degree, followed by a master's degree, postmaster's degree, or certification. So, and all the clinical hours that kind of accumulate over that time, both in the program and outside of the program. In addition to that, there was this board certification in your specialty, and then you have to have 5 years of supervision and malpractice attached to your certification, which no other health profession has. So the point of it was to draw a contrast that here's a group of people that are incredibly prepared to do a very tiny thing, and people that have, granted, lots of people have more than that, right? That's granted, but by law, have this very discrete amount of education preparation and all of the practice credentials. So it was simply meant to highlight that the law states these very different requirements. It was clearly not going to go anywhere, but I felt like there were so many people I talked to that didn't even know the law that it was important to show there is nothing that nurse practitioners are doing to try to be a physician. Physicians are incredibly important in the healthcare system, and nurse practitioners practice in a very discreet way in which they are well prepared and a very important part of the healthcare system. Now, I may be registered as a person who practiced in Richmond City, but I actually, when I got my autonomous practice, was in an underserved community in Petersburg. I know what it's like to have to practice in an underserved and try to find a provider. Not just a provider, but a provider I felt safe with. It was very helpful to have that information. We can't make policy based on one-off stories. If we did that, you should know that a very excellent nurse practitioner dermatologist saw a patient that came out of the ER who had an IND for a basal cell cancer. I mean, things happen. People are people. Clinicians are clinicians. We don't have a ton of research in Virginia because this practice authority has been so limited in its duration. But we have a lot of national data. And nurses have been the most trusted profession for 30 years. I don't understand where this sort of trust and integrity goes away when you get more education. This is why I'm passionate about this. This is why I talk about this. And this is why I felt it need to draw a contrast, not to change the lives of physicians or other medical professionals.
All right. The bill is before us.
Move the report to substitute.
Okay.
Recommend report.
Do you want to ask another question, or?
On a different motion, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, you can. Well, you could do a substitute motion, or we can do it.
Mr. Chairman,
this fails. So
it's just I'm kind of halfway there, and I think that it is compelling to hear some of those that are in current practice. I think that my comfort level would probably lie more on the halfway point of saying those that currently are operating with the status be allowed to continue, but that we return back to the 5 years. This committee meets every year, and we can consider this. There are two just concerns that I have. One, we did this in an emergency basis based completely on COVID. That's why we're here. We're not here for any other reason. We're here because COVID kind of put us that way. And the other is that I am concerned that at some point we actually be careful not to become a disincentive. And I've not seen any studies on this, but I'm concerned about it, where people in our area, where you disincentivize people to go to medical school, and before you know it, there is more of a shortage on those people that are doing more of that. And I don't know. I don't have that study in front of us. So I guess, with all due respect, my substitute motion is that we amend the bill to grandfather those that are currently practicing in this method, and that we remove the 5 year, we reinsert the 5 years.
all right, we have a motion and a second for a substitute motion. Does everybody understand the substitute motion?
That's the grandfather in.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
I would support that.
And my clarification.
Yes.
No new ones. No new rights to allow nurse practitioners to do practice this area.
John, we would go back to the way it was pre-pandemic and have the same number of years for those people that we had pre-pandemic, which would be fine.
Speaking of this substitute, again, there's no way to quantify what this looks like, right? And I can't see how it helps Virginia, helps areas that are needed. I think that, it certainly would be, well, first let me just speak to the premise to this substitute. Physicians are disincentivized to go in medicine. the healthcare system has done that. The need to chart everything because of the possible litigation, that's what's disincentivizing medicine. It's not nurse practitioners. There is a workforce shortage. It would make a lot more sense to me to extend the sunset, where you're actually actively capturing data around 2 years, and then come back in a year and rescind it, than to just try to capture an unknown quantity that also does not allow us to serve communities that are truly underserved with an ever-decreasing workforce. More and more people are leaving, and I don't think we've even captured what that's going to look like. So, I understand the concern, and especially around not having data. Data is very important, but it seems to me like that doesn't get anything, whereas if you extended the sunset, and I'm just trying to kill my own bill, but if you do that, then you capture data in real time, and if there's a problem, you're here next year and you're like, we're rescinding the sunset. So I just don't think you have an active way to capture what you're looking to assess that way.
Adams, let me make a suggestion. We got a motion here. I don't think we voted on it yet.
We have not voted, no.
To grandfather in the existing. Why don't you take that and look at it in another year or two and see how things are going. And, something's better than nothing. Okay?
How about a substitute motion to extend?
Well, we already have a substitute motion.
We got a motion.
So we had a first motion. And then
grandfather
yeah,
in.
yeah.
We can go to conference too. We'll see what happens.
Or deal with it in full committee.
All right.
So it can obviously be changed there. So, all right, the substitute motion, which was made by Senator Newman, call the roll.
Senator Saslaw,
Excuse me. The substitute motion is the motion from Senator Newman to grandfather in the existing ones. and-
Aye.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye.
Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Dunavant, Senator Suderline, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 7, noes 1.
I thank the committee.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion now to recommend reporting
Yeah.
the substitute as amended.
Second.
Okay.
I think the
Wait a
last
second
one
now.
was to put the substitute
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. What's,
I think the last one was to put a substitute on, and he's saying now, let's recommend reporting it as a substitute.
Okay. All right, okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to recommend
To be clear,
reporting.
the substitute grandfathers in.
Right.
that keeps it still,
Right.
at least for now, at 2 years.
Moving forward. Yeah.
You know,
All right,
going back
call the roll.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye.
Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Dunavant, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 7, noes 1.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, Delegate Hodges, sorry we took so long on that one, so.
Make it work, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so.
Good morning, everyone. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Members of the committee, you have before you House Bill 1324 that directs the Board of Pharmacy to promulgate regulations related to work environment requirements for pharmacy personnel that protect the health, safety, and welfare of patients. Oh, I'm sorry. You need me to start again?
Go ahead.
And to protect the health, safety, and welfare of patients. And, living in the breathing in the pharmacy world, pharmacy is chaotic and in the retail setting. And we want to ensure that as regulations move forward, number one, we get them done in a timely manner in the 280 days. And we do have some guardrails around them to make sure they're not so subjective as they move forward.
All right. Are there any questions? All right. Anyone wish to testify either for or against the bill?
Move to
recommend reporting. All right, we got a motion and a second to recommend reporting. There's no further questions, call the roll.
Saslaw, Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Dunavant, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 8, noes 0.
All right, 8-0.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
All right.
Wonderful weekend.
Yes. Delegate Davis. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have House Bill 80, which is the Healthcare Regulatory Sandbox. What this bill is attempting to do is provide a regulatory sandbox that allows entities to come together and be exempted from certain regulatory processes as they look to innovate in the healthcare space. It's been extremely successful in the fintech space, and this would allow entities like what I would expect to see is additional innovation in telemedicine, which could be extremely beneficial for those in rural areas. Additionally, many of us have wearables. And there's significant innovation I think we can see in the wearable space that would come about with some of this as well, and who knows what else. But seeing the success in other areas, that's what this bill would allow us to do in Virginia.
All right. Any questions of the patron? Is this bill similar to the one that Senator Stanley had that was called a sandbox, but was not specific to health, but was a broad?
Potentially, if it passed, yes. If it didn't, no.
It is similar but much more narrow because it's for healthcare innovation.
Yes, right.
So it has a little bit more
Right.
generated support.
Yes.
Then the follow-up question, because this is where there are a lot of things that I liked about the Senator Stanley's bill, but in the end, it was the granting the authority to suspend regulations. Does this have that same?
It does, but it's nearly drawn. So I would direct down to, I think it's line 45 through 47, where subsection C, where, oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Here it is, lines 164 through 166, that it does not be construed to waive any licensure, certification, or registration requirement of any health regulatory board in the Department of Health Professions, nor those with healthcare providers with prescriptive authority. So working on this with the department, we wanted to make sure that we didn't get out in front of our skis and allow certain regs to be removed that were for health of the citizens. So that's where that came in. So working very closely with the department. It does allow for some regulations to be temporarily removed for innovative purposes, but not the ones that are a significant safety mechanism.
All right. Any other questions of the patron?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Senator Hashmi.
I was hoping, Delegate, you could just clarify that the ways in which, I know the ability to regulate some of these new innovations would be more narrowly prescribed, you said, but what role would the VDH play or continue to play over any kind of innovative projects?
Very much so, and quite a bit. I mean, this is by no means here's a license to do whatever you want for 24 months. As you go through the scope of the program, which starts on line 28, it's everything that it prescribes that not only has to be part of this, like all consumers have to be residents of the Commonwealth, but also what these entities still have to supply back to the department, where the liability exists, even so much so that upon the end and exit, there has to be a whole analysis given to the department. There has to be insurance and everything that continues on past the into the consumer protection period, and then along the way, the department's ability to monitor this as well. So, and then at 24 months, or the earlier, it's 24 months or July 1st, 2027, this comes to an end on anything that's granted unless it's agreed to by both parties.
All right, Senator Newman.
Just quickly, so what expires is the act. What about items that are promulgated? Those don't expire in 2027. How does line 254, in your mind, work?
So line 254.
The last line in the bill.
So line 254 is when the act expires, Senator. And if you go to lines 131 through 132, It says that any application period that's granted expires 24 months after the date it was approved or the date of expiration of the act, which is the July 1st, 2027 period. So the act expires in 27, but any application expires the sooner of that date or 24 months after approval.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Senator Edwards.
Give an example of why this is needed. What type of product are you talking about that would be helpful that cannot otherwise be developed under the traditional regulatory process?
Sure, it's a great question, and so I will be. I will, if I knew the answer to that, I'd go start a company tomorrow. And so, but I will kind of try to, thinking ahead. When you look at telemedicine, and up until the pandemic, we had significant restrictions and regulations on telemed, but we relaxed those for COVID, and we saw its growth. And I think we're going to see a lot more potential use in telemed, but when you start to innovate in that space, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through, a lot of regulations that you have to work around, and it inhibits that. I would say the same thing when it comes to our wearable devices. These devices right now, for many of us, are nothing but recreational. We keep track of our sleeping habits or exercise. But it can be significantly important for the health monitoring of our healthcare professionals when it comes to their patients, especially those that don't live close to the healthcare professionals that take care of them. But I do know that we have a doctor here, and I would imagine she may have a little bit more insight on what this could be used for. But to see the innovation that has come with these sandboxes and other spaces, it truly is amazing. But sometimes you don't have the foresight till you open it up. And Senator?
Mr. Chairman, how many other states, how long have other people been doing this, and how has it worked out for them?
So it has, we have, let's see, it's mostly been in the fintech space, but we have had the med space, I believe it was Utah. Let me grab that for you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just follow up for members of the committee and the patron. One of the ways we're going to solve our healthcare crises and potentially our workforce crises is to innovate and find ways that we can change how we do things. And I think this is a way by which we can, the Affordable Care Act had a lot of funding in it, and it had a lot of permissibility for innovation. It kind of trailed off and didn't really happen. But we need to innovate in medicine, and it is probably the most regulated workspace and marketplace there is in the country. And so a safe way with bumpers on it, like this sandbox, for us to find ways to innovate, I think could really help us maybe in our rural areas, as we define where our real challenges are, it would be very helpful. So I'll just leave it with that and let you finish.
Mr. Chair, just one more follow-up question. We have a lot of innovation like this already going on at our wonderful research institutions, UVA, VCU, other institutions across Virginia. Is there a reason why I don't see our colleges and universities mentioned and their research potentials and what they're already doing in this particular bill? So our universities have significant innovation that happens in there, but sometimes that innovation can go to that next step. And usually what's amazing is you see this a lot where it's the students, many times the grad students, working, when they're in those universities, they come up with this new innovative scenario. And then they want to go out and they want to take it to the market. And they really want to take it to that next level for that first round of funding. But they need to further the proof of concepts. And there's so much cost and limitations on regs. This actually opens that up. And I would argue that this allows us to go from what you're seeing in some of our universities to that next level without the inherent costs that exist today to do so.
Senator, you're in opposition to this bill, because if not,
we need to move on.
We can move to a motion.
All right, is there anyone who wishes to testify on this bill? Try to make it brief.
Ben Knotts with Americans for Prosperity. To answer a couple of questions over here. Yes, sir. Ben Knotts, Americans for Prosperity. One of the things that, to answer a couple of questions here, remote patient monitoring was proven to be effective in 1999 by UVA, but we didn't start really reimbursing. We've got legislation carried by Senator Dunn at this session to finally fully fund remote patient monitoring. Why is that? It's because we didn't have something like this that could show within government the data that says that proves the cost, and it shows that it's effective and safe. Another example that's been recent is Senator Favola and Senator Stanley and Delegate Kilgore and Delegate Guzman carried legislation so that EMTs could do telehealth on site in collaboration with an ER. If you have 3 government agencies, you have to coordinate EMS, the Department of Health Professions, and DMAS. And that coordination is hard to achieve. This allows some coordination between these so these silos can talk to each other so projects like this can take place.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, next.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Zaya. Sorry, let me sit down. The Virginia Institute for Public Policy. We have been working on sandboxes in other states, and specifically I just wanted to highlight in this bill, it does have a host of safeguards. Applicants are required to disclose any risks. They are required to have a plan that covers financial, staffing, and ensures they have expertise in the area. But one of the biggest benefits is this actually allows for to inform policy on what regulations should be on new innovations with the data that can be provided. Well, that would otherwise not be possible if we didn't have a sandbox first.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the bill? All right. All right, we got a motion and a second to recommend reporting. Call the roll.
Senator Saslaw.
Aye.
Senator Newman.
Aye. By proxy.
Senator Edwards.
Pass.
Senator Lewis. Senator Dunavant.
Aye.
Senator Pillion. Senator Hashmi. Senator Barker.
I'm going to abstain.
Ayes 7, no 0 abstentions 1.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right. Next up is Delegate Batten.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. I have before you today House Bill 537. House Bill 537 allows for mental health continuity of care through the use of telemedicine services. The bill authorizes mental health practitioners who hold an active, unrestricted license in another state to provide behavioral health services to a patient located in the Commonwealth, provided that they have a previously established patient-provider relationship and that an in-person evaluation of the patient has been performed within the previous year. And the duration of the telemedicine services is limited to 1 year. And I am happy to answer questions on the legislation.
All right. We had, I think, a similar bill from Senator Stewart, if I recall correctly. Are you familiar with that bill?
I have not yet seen Senator Stewart's bill.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the bills overlap a bit with practitioners licensed by the Board of Medicine, but hers also brings in counseling, psychology, and social work, and the language is consistent in both.
Right. All right. All right, well, any other questions of the patron? All right, anyone wish to speak to this bill? So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Johnson for the Medical Society. We work with the patron on this, and we are supportive of that, and I agree. I don't think Senator Stewart's bill or the Delegate Head bill are in conflict.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right.
Is Dr. Brown here?
Yes, he's still here.
Any thumbs up, Dr. Brown?
We have no position on this bill.
No report.
All right, we have a motion and a second to report. If there are no further questions or comments, call the roll.
Senator Saslaw.
Aye.
Senator Newman.
I'm going to abstain.
Senator Edwards.
Aye.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
Senator Dunavant.
Abstain.
Senator Pillion. Senator Hashmi. Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 6, no 0 abstentions 2.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right. Delegate Greenhollow, come on up. So, yeah, you're next. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are y'all today?
Good.
Thank you for letting me be here. There was a substitution. I need to move my substitution, please.
Second. They don't have a copy.
Sorry?
Oh, okay, so the House previously adopted a substitute, so we don't need to move.
So we don't need
That's
to?
already before the
Okay.
committee.
Okay.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just
No, it's
being
okay. Yeah, yeah.
extra careful. Okay, so House Bill 212 is about providing information to a woman who is facing an elective abortion. This bill does not require an ultrasound or a waiting period. It's simply information. So if you think about your typical elective procedure, like if you go for LASIK surgery or cosmetic surgery, you talk to your friends, you get information, you go and meet the doctor, you have procedures done so that you know exactly what your condition is and you're fully informed. You meet the doctor who knows that you can go to another doctor, knows you can change your mind. But it's not like that when a woman is facing an abortion with an unplanned pregnancy. She typically doesn't tell anyone. She's typically alone. She doesn't have the time to do the research. She is afraid to tell her family, afraid to tell possibly the father of the child. She might be afraid that she's going to lose her job. And the reason I know this is because I was a counselor for women like this for almost 10 years. For 10 years, I was an advocate. I worked with women who were facing unplanned pregnancies just to give them someone to talk to. I had women choose to give birth, and I had women choose abortion. And very often they would ask me to call them the next day because it was a secret. No one knew. They were alone. And I had one client who actually called me from the ER where she had gone with complications and couldn't answer the questions that were being asked about her procedure. So when a woman's in a crisis situation, it's more, there's an instinctual feeling that you have to do something. There isn't time to do the research that there typically is with other procedures. So abortion is not a typical elective procedure. And the the Department of Health actually gives specific information for other procedures that are not typical. And we have taken the details of informed consent out of the Virginia Code. The General Assembly removed from Virginia Code the requirements to tell her how far along she is in her pregnancy, a medical explanation of the proposed procedure, information about any other options. She's no longer required to be allowed to meet the abortion provider. But to me, the most important thing that was taken out is she's no longer told she has the right to change her mind. And we're talking typically, these are young women who are alone. It's their first medical experience, and they are trusting the abortion provider to give them all of the information they know that she needs.
Okay, try to wrap it up because we're running a little
So
late.
the only thing that I'm asking in House Bill 212 is to give her information, basic medical information from the medical provider. And the other information will be written, unbiased information written by the Department of Health, written that will be offered to her. She doesn't have to take it. She doesn't have to read it. She doesn't have to talk to anyone. This doesn't come between her and her doctor. But if she needs the information, she has it. So I'm certainly hoping that you will support House Bill 212.
All right.
And
all right.
Thank you, sir.
We have an issue here. The bill that we have, the House substitute, has one page down to line 59, and there's nothing after that.
He's got it. He's got it.
I have, oh my gosh.
Okay.
I have 2 more copies.
Yeah, he had it too.
I'm so sorry. I have one more if anyone needs it.
We just left out the last 103 lines of the bill, so. All right, anyone have any questions of the patron? All right, anyone want to speak in favor of the bill? All right, is there anyone who wish? Okay. Yes, come forward quickly, and you need to come up, sit in the chair. And,
different committee, Senator. Thank you.
Keep it very short.
Very short. I am Olivia Turner, the president of the Virginia Society of Unite, which we all know. Our organization strongly supports this bill because, as a woman myself who's had an abortion and one who's worked with women throughout the United States and Virginia for years, we know that women need greater access to information, not less information. We are capable of making good decisions if we're given information. If we don't have information, we can't make good decisions for ourselves and our children. Thank you very much, and please support this bill.
Thank you. Next, come forward quickly. So.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Lester, and I had my first abortion at 15. No one went over the risks or the alternatives with me. My informed consent was only a piece of paper that I was to read and initial. When scared and in crisis, how capable are you of making a life-changing decision from an explanation on a piece of paper? And how often do you even fully read information? Failing to obtain proper informed consent by law is battery, and women are being assaulted by the abortion industry. I have witnessed it firsthand, not only as a patient, but also as an employee in a Richmond abortion facility. In this clinic, I understood from my training that once a woman came in, it was our job to convince her to have an abortion. Our employees were not certified or licensed as counselors. I was a bartender before I worked there. Our patients were like me. We were terrified and looking for help. We did not offer help. We only offered abortion. Not one time did we ever refer a woman for adoption or give resources for parenting or provide for any of her needs except abortion. We rushed to get her in and out without explaining the risks from the procedure or telling them when there had been a complication from this procedure. We deserve better than this. Why do we trust giving all the information for difficult procedures like a hysterectomy or a mass?
Try to go quickly because we have other meetings to go to. So
okay, we trust women with decisions on hysterectomies and mastectomies, but not simple medical procedures like abortion. If it's her decision, she needs all the information. So I support this bill. Thank you.
All right, come quickly and. Because we got to get through that.
My name is Julia Sabanowitz. I represent the Virginia Catholic Conference, and we support this bill as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm Susan Musket, president of Pro Family Women, and we believe that Virginia's women deserve the opportunity to be more fully informed before they undergo an abortion, and we urge you to support HB 212. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Anyone wish to speak in opposition? All right.
Tell them quickly.
Yeah, try to go quickly.
Yes, I'm going to try to go really quickly. So you can hear that everyone here seems to have maybe can't validate because it's their personal opinion, their own personal health history. That's none of my business. But we have a lot of people who feel very strongly about this. But I just want to let you know that our informed, I'm one of the clinicians that works at the clinic. I'm also an educator of medical students and nurse practitioner students. And informed consent is one of the hallmarks of any kind of procedure. And I will let you know that it's literally like over an hour spent with a lot of information. We take into consideration the person's health literacy, their language. There's a language person if they can't speak the original language. There's considerations for if the person has had trauma in their life. The person's treated as a whole person. We take this seriously. They're surrounded by tons of healthcare providers if they have any questions. So the informed consent process is like any other health service.
Try to
yeah, exactly. So pretty much biased counseling or additional layer of biased counseling is unethical. So this also undermines the relationship that we already have with our patients that we take to and we take very seriously. So I appreciate and I'm opposed to this bill. Thank you.
All right. Next, come forward. We got about 30 seconds more here, so.
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Michaela Paris. I'm the Communications Director for Pro-Choice Virginia, and our organization strongly opposes this bill.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendra Sutnell of Birth and Color RVA, and we strongly oppose this bill. We've toured all of the abortion facilities within Virginia, and we know what informed consent looks like, and they need to still continue to follow the rules of ACOG. That's what they're for, and that's who we specialize and we always refer to when making decisions about health care.
All right.
And let's not make abortion political.
All right, thank you. All right.
Motion.
All right, we have the bill before us now.
I move it be passed by indefinitely.
All right, we have a motion and a second to pass it by indefinitely.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to the bill?
Sure.
This is one of those hard moments as a legislator because I am a pro-life OBGYN, and that takes fortitude for the last 30 years. But I have to say that informed consent is a requirement of everything that we do in every procedure. If it is not being provided, there is legal recourse to sue that provider for inadequate informed consent. And I just can't support scripting that into the code in another place because it's a really slippery slope. And so I just need to explain my conflict here because I understand the intent. I empathize. Anybody that is not adequately consented should sue. But I don't think having additional cause in the law for suit makes it any more likely we're going to fix it because we can already hold them accountable. So I just felt compelled to say that, Mr.
All right, thank you. All right, if there are no other comments or questions, call the roll.
Senator Saslaw,
To recommend to the committee that we pass by indefinitely, aye.
Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Donovan, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 6, noes 2.
All right, 6-2. All right, thank you. All right, last we have Delia Robinson. So. And then we have one other just to take a quick action on. So.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully this won't take too long. Where this bill came from is parents were trying to access their children's records, and they weren't able to access the information on their kids who were 12 and up, and so that's where this bill came from, and it's pretty simple. It just requires hospital and healthcare providers to have a minor's health records available to their guardian and parent when it is on a secure website. This bill, we had put some amendments in there so the privacy of the minor is protected under the federal and law. So that's the whole bill.
All right. Any questions of the patron? All right. Anybody wish to testify on the bill? All right. All right, we got a motion to report and a second. All right. If there's no further discussion, call the roll.
Senator Saslaw,
To report?
Yes.
Yeah.
Senator Newman, Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Donovan, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 8, noes 0.
Ayes 8, noes 0.
Thank you.
Here.
Thanks for taking me after Delegate Greenhaw, too, because I couldn't breathe when I first walked in the room because I'd walked the stairs.
Okay. All right.
thank you.
There's one other bill on the docket, and that is Delegate Friedis's bill. It deals with abortion, born alive infant treatment and care and penalty. And what I think we need to do is to recommend to the full committee referring this to judiciary because it does have a felony sought there, felony charge there. So we're making a motion, asking for a motion to recommend having it sent to judiciary to be heard there. So
moved.
All right. Is there a second? Second. All right. We got a motion and a second to recommend referring it to the judiciary. Call the roll.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Newman,
I'm going to say no. I think we should have considered it and then sent it, so just that's why my no.
Senator Edwards, Senator Lewis, Senator Dunavant, Senator Pillion, Senator Hashmi, Senator Barker.
Aye.
Ayes 5, noes 3.
All right. We'll give you a pass to the Judiciary Committee. So. Yes. All right. We've finished the docket, and this is our last meeting, I guess. So everybody will rise. So.